Hi, and welcome back to It's Not Rocket Science, 5 questions over coffee. I am here with my lizard mug, which is where I get my coffee for these things. And there's Alan. I can see Alan has got his drink in front of him. So welcome to you, Alan. Allen Kopelman is our guest today. Alan is the founder of a payments company. So I guess we're going to get in some really interesting discussions about how payments can help business owners grow their business with reduced costs. So welcome to 5 questions over coffee, Alan.
Well, thank you for having me today, Stuart.
Absolutely no problem. So, Alan, let's start with sort of trying to understand from the sort of business owners that you speak to. Who is it that you're trying to help with the solution that you've got?
Well, we always talk to the business owner. I mean, in a larger company, we might be talking to the CFO or talking to someone in their IT department because, today, payments used to be, a bunch of little machines around. And, now today payments, been doing this for 25 years. Payments is all about software. So we always have to make sure, how are we doing these payments? How are we connecting everything? How is that all put together? And, doing payments is not just a commodity. It's all about, using the proper technology based on whatever business it is that you have.
And tell me, what solutions have business owners tried before they come across somebody like you? What is it they're trying to do? What is it they're trying to do without perhaps sort of seeking help from the sort of solutions that you've got?
Well, a lot of times people are starting a business and they run they run to Stripe, but sometimes they run into problems over there scaling because Stripe doesn't really do underwriting of the merchant. They kind of underwrite the transactions.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a little bit different of a setup. And then they could run into issues based on their business type and things like that. A lot of people today, I probably come across one person a week that's starting a business that virtually they're either the first one or there's maybe only a few of those around. And a lot of times they don't understand, like, oh, well, I'm going to like we had a guy recently had a cost recovery company. And I was like, well, what is that? Explain it to me. So he explained, he goes, oh, it's for medical billing recovery. Let's say you're a doctor and you did an operation and the bills, you sent the bill to the insurance company for 10,000 and they agreed to pay 10,000, but in the end they reviewed it and they only sent the doctor 6,000. So what does the doctor do? They get with this medical recovery company and they go after the other $4,000 and they get a percentage of it. And so is that really a collections company? No, it's cost recovery. They're not collecting money from a consumer or a business in essence, right? They're recovering, they're collecting money from an insurance company. So they're not really a collections company. So we had to explain it to a few banks. Finally, one of them got it and they were like, oh, okay, this isn't really a collections company. It's closer to medical billing than collections. So a lot, this is the things that like we can help people with. There's so many companies out there today that are fintech companies or SaaS companies or AI companies. And then these companies have no phone numbers. You can only email them or do some kind of online chat with them. And, if you're a business owner and you need to have that, I don't say we need to hold your hand the whole time, but you want to have that assurance that when you have an issue in your business, you're able to call somebody and get your issue taken care of, then you should work with a company like mine.
And how long have you been in business? I think you said just then that you've been doing this for 25 years. What was the sort of starting point for this?
So the starting point was I owned a restaurant and I was, in a chef and I was in the hospitality industry. I worked in hotels, country clubs. I worked for a consulting company where we would go to hotels, mostly country clubs, not very many like individual restaurants. And then we would do, help them with menu engineering, costing, hiring, staffing, recipes, all kinds of different things. And, and I decided, okay, I'm going to make a change in life and look for something else to do. And I got into this business and I kind of knew what it was to be on the other side, to be the business accepting credit cards. And one of the things that there was things that I hated about it. And, and I wanted to make sure, like, if I was going to get into this business, that I was going to be able to help business owners, navigate like what's going on, how to read the statement, how to make sure like I'm working with a good company that has an easy to read statement that people are going to understand, and make sure that there's customer service for our customers, make sure that we're able to keep them in business by making sure that they have equipment that's reliable, and if it breaks, we're going to be able to replace it quickly, and things like that in the very beginning, because that's what the business required. And over time, that's changed to the point where, today people are looking at software and not necessarily looking at just getting a credit card machine.
And so what's the valuable piece of advice that you could give to a business owner from somebody that like you who's been on the side of collecting money but now helps them to sort of collect that money quicker and make it flow through their business? Because we all know it's cash flow that kills businesses. The business may have great ideas, may have great customers, may have great products, but unless you can collect the money quickly and turn that into operating cash, it becomes difficult to keep that business running.
Yeah, one thing is, and today a lot of businesses are not like, it's not like a credit card machine on the counter thing. It's more like, oh, I'm sending Stuart an invoice, right? And then getting you to pay the invoice. So, you have to really start to think about, I have a saying, don't be the bank, right? Mm-hmm. Your customer already has a bank. So, you don't need to the days of negotiating terms like 30, 60-day terms with people, you shouldn't really be doing that as a business owner. As a business owner, you should be saying, okay, I need to collect my money up front, send the customer an invoice, let them pay by credit card or ACH so I can collect my funds up front, and let their bank be their financer of it is that let their bank finance the purchase. Because today when and this hasn't probably, I would say maybe 25 years ago, maybe money, I don't think money was much cheaper than it is now. But when you look at, if you had to access a line of credit, you could be spending 7 to 10%, or you're using your capital that you could be using to buy more cups or more microphones or whatever it is that you sell. Yeah. And you're depleting your ready cash that you have to purchase inventory, right? So, don't float. You don't need to float. Customers have a way to float money now by using their credit card. They can put the purchase on their credit card, and it's only costing you, let's say, 2.5% to 3%. And you don't have to let go of your cash, because you need your cash to, pay your employees, pay your bills, pay your rent. And believe me, I've helped businesses turn this like whole thing around, over 25 years. I always tell the story. I had this client that he was a CPA, and he decided to expand his business. He was going to get into bookkeeping. So he bought a small bookkeeping company with more than 100 clients, and they grew it to like 300 clients. But the problem was the clients weren't paying on time. And I had met him and I said, hey, let me show you our billing system. And once I showed him the billing system, within 90 days, they got everybody all new customers signed up for automatic billing, and all the old customers, they got them all signed up too. And then that freed up their staff from chasing money.
Yeah, of course.
They were all sitting around making phone calls. Hey, when can you pay your bill? When can you pay your bill?
Yeah.
And they're waiting for checks in the mail. Now there's no check in the mail. And they've literally, like, in 2 years, they ended up doubling the size of the company.
Yeah, brilliant. Brilliant story. Brilliant story, and rightly so, because you need that cash to, as you say, to pay inventory, or bring in new inventory, or pay your employees' bills. You can't afford to have it sitting around in customers' wallets waiting for them to pay your invoice, can you?
No, you can't afford to do that. Today in any business, cash flow is king. Whenever you read stories online about this place or that place, when they go bankrupt, they just don't have any cash flow. Yeah. And that's the main problem that they're having.
Yeah, brilliant. Alan, what brought you? You mentioned being a chef, but what was the origin story? Was there a final moment of being a chef when you went, no, I can't take this anymore, I've just got to get into being a business owner? Or was there a cash flow problem? What was it that brought you to what you do now?
No, well, I had my own restaurant at the time, and it was going very well. It was successful, and I wanted to add liquor because liquor is a lot more profitable than food.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need to add liquor. So I was going through the process of getting the liquor license, which I obtained. And then I was expanding the business because you have to have a certain amount of seats in order to have a liquor license. When you're serving food, there's a consumption license, they call it in Florida, COP, consumption on premises. So I was going through the process, and then all of a sudden I went down to the city, and the city's like, oh, the landlord said you weren't gonna open the other side of the store. And I'm like, what? I was in the middle of the construction. I went down there to pick up the next, go down there to find out when they're coming over to inspect so we could finish the project. And then we got into a lawsuit and this and that and whatever. I ended up recovering all my money. And then I was just like, I'm done. And for a few months, I was looking for other locations, but I kept running into the same problem where I needed to have X amount of seats to have this liquor license. And at the time, in the area where I was in, Boca Raton, Delray, these cities were not allowing for outside seating. So you couldn't get a liquor license. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to open another restaurant unless I can get a liquor license. And it doesn't look like it's going to happen. And I was still doing like catering and stuff because I had another kitchen in a warehouse. And I was doing that. And then one of my friends said, hey, you should try this credit card business. And I worked for somebody. Yeah, I worked for somebody for about a year. And then I said, you know what? I kept people were asking me about like technology solutions. And they were like, no, just sell them a machine. And I was like, there's more to this business. And then I met somebody and they told me, they said, hey, read this magazine called The Green Sheet, in which I write for that magazine. I've been writing for that magazine for a while. For 2 years, I wrote a column in there. And so I ended up opening my own company.
Brilliant. I love the story. The frustration led you to be the person that solves the problem. That's brilliant.
It's important, you want to solve the problem. And, if anybody wants to look at we have like a cash flow calculator on our website, and it's on the solutions page. We have a bunch of different calculators that can show you, how much money you can save. But we have one under B2B cash flow, and it has a whole calculator talking about, you tell it how much business you do, and then it will explain how much money you can save by taking credit cards versus waiting for a check in the mail.
And if you go to our vault, which is 5questionsovercoffee.com/free stuff, you will get a direct link straight to what Alan has just described there, which is the calculator where you can see exactly how much you could save by doing that calculation. And believe me, the number of businesses I point towards things like that in order to get them to understand how cash flow can kill them is absolutely critical. So yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Alan. Alan, just as a final question, now that we as we're reaching into the final point that we're getting to on this, is there a question that I should have asked you? Is there something that I should have asked, but I've not yet been able to sort of get that from you? Is there something that you're thinking, there's a killer question in here and he just hasn't spotted it? What is the killer question that I should have asked you by now?
Well, I don't give out all the secrets, but one of the things that we do is I tell people is when you're doing at least $25,000 or $50,000 a month, businesses need to start to learn about interchange and how interchange works, and why those flat rate companies who are charging 2.9 to let's say 4% are charging people, why you shouldn't be on that program anymore and why you should be on interchange pass-through. And you can contact me and I will explain the secret to you about how credit card interchange works and how that can impact your business. And a lot of businesses just don't realize that, these flat rate companies, while they can help you get started, we can help you optimize what you're doing so that you can spend less on credit card processing.
So let me just suggest, and I've just put it on screen, that if you would like to get that from Alan, if you drop a message into the chat, if he doesn't see it and answer it, I will, and I will point anything that I see people dropping into the chat beneath this video on LinkedIn or wherever. If you see that question, if you've got that question and you haven't, you drop it into the chat. Alan will get to answer it, and he will be able to guide you through the next stages. And if you're listening to us now on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or anywhere like that, once again, there's a chat function. You can drop it into the chat function and you can ask that question. We will get Alan to answer those questions for you. Alan, thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us and talking us through that. I know you're a busy guy. You were busy just before we came on air, so I'm not going to sort of make you stay and try and keep going for many hours. So I'm just going to thank you very much.
I'll give you like two. I'll drop you two tidbits because you gave me you asked a question about books. So I would tell anybody, business owner, two books that I really like in my life. Who Moved the Cheese? Somebody gave me that book when I first started my business. I think it's a really important book that can really change your mindset. And the other one was Mel Robbins, The 5-Second Rule. And that'll teach you.
Now that's another really brilliant suggestion, because the one thing I love about the Mel Robbins book, it's so easy to implement everywhere you go, isn't it? I mean, from getting out of bed to making a decision, it really is. And I think that the thing about the Mel Robbins, and the thing I'm always very conscious of, so many business owners believe that a decision they're taking is final and one way. And most of the decisions we're taking as business owners, we can reverse them. If you sort of do it and then you say, hang on a minute, that was a mistake. It's so easy to step back. It's our pride that stops us from stepping back rather than anything else. You can so easily turn around and say, no, I made a mistake there. I did it the other day with something. I went, no, I've made a mistake. Let's just go back. I apologize to people and I just go, look, we've got to go back. Too often we think, I've made a decision, I've got to keep going. That's the wrong way to do it.
Yeah, but the thing is, you have to make decisions. You can't just wallow around. Should I do this? Should I not do that? Have a limit. Like, can I spend $1,000 and I won't be mad?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
If that's your limit, then that's your limit. And you go, okay, well, this only costs $500. Let's try it. It's worth it.
And if it doesn't work out, hey, you tried. It doesn't work out. So that's it. And that's a great piece of advice. I'm glad we finished on that one. I think that's a great way to finish this. Get people to make a decision. Thank you so much for coming and spending a few minutes with us. Really appreciate that. And I look forward to sort of seeing how people comment and thank us for bringing some of that wisdom here. If you'd like to be informed of what's going on, I send out notes every week about who's coming on and who's going to be available. Just go to this link, which is 5questionsovercoffee.com. If you click on that link, you can subscribe. You will get access to the podcast. You'll get access to notes about who's coming up. And also, remember, if you go to the 5questionsovercoffee.com/free stuff, you will get access to the brilliant free advice that not only Alan's been giving here, transcripts and things like that, but also from other guests. So, Alan, thank you so much for spending some time with us. Really appreciate it. You're a busy guy, and you've got lots of other people that you've got to talk to. So I'm going to let you go, and we'll talk again very soon.
Well, thank you for having me on today. I really appreciate it. It was fun.
No problem. Thank you.